So I am getting into the ecosystems now. So basically, actually, my story is I've been an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, firm believer in business as a vehicle for progress. And about 4 years ago, I was asked by my colleagues in the US to bring this movement of the B Corps to Europe. So this is the story, short story of the B Corps. So basically, there are 10,000 companies in 70 countries, and they focus on what we call the impact economy. So let's get to the substance. Here are some of we have about 500 plus in Europe. This is not right. It is 2,720 in 70 countries and 8,000 benefit corporations by law. These are some of the logos. For the Dutch people, we have Triodos Bank, we have Ecover, we have Fairphone, Tony Chocolonely, Patagonia. There are about 75 in the Netherlands and equivalent numbers in other countries. And the movement is about 12 years old. The big focus is, I'll show you later, but first the faces, because every company has individuals, business people, leaders behind them. So here you can see people like Peter Blom, Triodos Bank. You see Al Gore, Generation Investment Management, a B Corp. These are all B Corps. The third guy from the top there is Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia. The fourth guy in the middle is Emmanuel Faber, CEO, chairman of Danone. And you have Chile, Taiwan, France, Kenya. So these are representatives of the B Corp movement. This is the kind of the essential chart. So what we are saying in this B Corp movement is that capitalism is the biggest sort of system we have created, but we wanted to create more positive impact. So basically, we want to get rid of all the negative externalities. Some of you who are economists, you know there are negative externalities, whether it's the environment, the social, human cost, etc., of capitalism. So the paradigm is for us away from profit alone to profit plus impact. And so we have created a methodology, an assessment, that is now in use by 80,000 companies that basically measures impact and profit. And it measures business value, brand value, and book value. And you can see here, along the lines of business, brand, and book, the various elements that are used in the assessment to actually measure what we mean. And 80,000 companies have used it, and about 3,000 have become B Corp, so it's not easy. It takes time. It is basically a very conscious look at many of the dimensions of a corporation. And here I give you the sort of the full sort of spectrum of what you get basically assessed as a company. The traditional ESG factors, so environment, social, governance, some of which actually came up in the slide earlier, the governance. And then you have the business model, which is all about how can a company really add impact to what it offers. So, for example, Danone in Bangladesh, together with Grameen Bank, created a yogurt which is full of minerals, vitamins that children and mothers could not actually find in the stores. And this has become an impact model. Tom's, you know Tom's shoes. Every pair of shoes you buy, one pair of shoes gets gifted to developing countries. There are all kinds of ways of having more impact. So the combination of really looking after the ESG factors, a business that is sustainable, that has kind of a social impact, and is well governed, so no corruption, no tax evasion, the kind of things that we would like companies not to do, plus the business model. How do you actually have impact? So this is the kind of sort of engine room of what it takes to become a B Corp. You've got to be tested along all these dimensions. Patagonia is a B Corp. They've been a B Corp for 5 or 6 years. By the way, every 3 years you recertify. And Patagonia, in the last 5, 6 years, they've gone through 2 cycles. They basically double their score. So they started at about 90, and now they're about 170. So it's actually a learning model of how can a company keep improving on the impact spectrum. Fairphone, well, you know Fairphone in the Netherlands. Again, they've been a B Corp for some time. Roshan, you probably don't know about Roshan, but Roshan is the second biggest company in Afghanistan. 10 years ago, they decided that they wanted to create a educational, cultural, trading platform for anyone in Afghanistan, a country that only had about 5% telephone penetration. In 10 years, they got to 95%, and Roshan has developed this sort of ecosystem that we speak, for culture, trading, etc., for anyone in Afghanistan with a mobile phone. So that is their kind of impact model. It's not only selling mobile phones, but actually creating all kinds of services attached to the mobile phone. Danone is the biggest company now that is a B Corp. It's a B Corp in 11 countries. The US is the biggest, $6.5 billion, and they have committed to become a B Corp globally, all around the world. Paul Polman, Unilever. Unilever has 7 B Corps, Ben & Jerry, Pooker Herbs, et cetera, in different countries. And Polman has been a kind of a pioneer and a champion of this kind of capitalism that is positive as possible for the planet. This is a couple of benefits. 2 slides to say it's really about building a better business. It's about connecting innovation and connecting with 10,000 companies around the world. It's differentiating from would-be companies. So it's really hard to become a B Corp. Some companies, like Danone, has taken more than a year. Engaging talent, most of the millennials, half the B Corps are run by people in their 20s and 30s. Millennials want to work for these kind of companies. You talk about purpose and meaningful work, so this is kind of companies that do that. Raise capital from impact investors. We started 11 years ago with funding from the Rockefeller Foundation. At the same time, the whole world of impact investing was starting. So there are now probably, $10 trillion in impact investing around the world. And many of these investors want to find these sort of companies. So there is a close connection between these companies and the investors. And then finally, the last one is, it's basically what is really unique. It's a global verification system for companies. There's never been a global system like this. So the other day, we had a new company from Nepal and then Indonesia. So anyone in the world in a global economy can use this sort of system to see how far they go and impact and improve their impact. It is analytics dashboard now, 80,000 users. It's a learning tool. Companies really learn how to actually become better companies, have more impact. And then B2B platform, we are increasingly trying to get companies to do business with each other. We had the first trade mission between South America and the Netherlands in June this year. The next one will go to Israel. So more and more of these companies really do business with each other. And finally, we have a partnership with the UN on the Sustainable Development Goals, where there'll be a product called the SDG Navigator, where any company can immediately have a ranking on how do they rank on the 17 SDGs. And that is, of course, a way for them to know where they are and help them to improve. So this is the slides. I don't know how many, if I have more minutes, but the point is very clear, and maybe I could ask you in the room, I don't really know. How many of you are entrepreneurs? Raise a hand, entrepreneurs, please, okay. How many of you are academics, professors? So quite a few. How many of you are in government or municipal government, national government? Okay, and then maybe others are students, NGOs, etc. So the essence is very clear. Capitalism is the biggest kind of system we ever invented, but we need to try and make it better so that it works for planet and people in a way that we know. We don't want to have all the excesses, all the negative externalities. And I've been on this road for a long time, and what is really cool about the B Corp is that you internalize the issues into each company. It's not enough to have policies at the government level that says, more sustainability, et cetera, et cetera. They work up to a point. But with this system, you can actually internalize all these issues within each company. So the objective we have is every company in the world should really measure their impact. Whether they become a B Corp or not doesn't matter, but they should measure the impact. And here's the tool to do that. And there are 170 million companies in the world. So then I close by saying the whole discussion about blockchain and ecosystem, actually the ecosystem is 170 million companies. So I like to work with you guys to actually see how we can use this Bitcoin blockchain to do better and actually help us to advance this movement. So thanks, and then if you have questions, I'm here. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Marcello. We have some questions indeed for Marcello. So 3, 4 questions. Here's a question.
Yes, I'd be interested. Hi, Sam. My name. I'd be interested as an expert how you see greenwashing, whitewashing, how you deal that, especially with that with corporations. So, corporation buying maybe one company and then having something where you would say that's great, that's in the right way that we look at, and having. Let's say, yeah, it's completely theoretical now, yeah? Let's say has an arms division is doing exactly the opposite, right? And so how do you handle B Corps inside a corporation? How do you see this as in terms whitewashing, greenwashing, yeah?
So, I mean, part of the reason why the B Corps were started is actually to make sure they could distinguish the companies that are really serious about who they are and those that are not. So it's actually the whole process is there's a disclosure questionnaire, there's an auditing process. The bigger the company, the more we audit them. There is an independent standard advisory council with 24 professors, academics from around the world who set the standards. And the organization called B Lab, for which I work, I'm global ambassador. B Lab always has the right to take away the B. And we've done this already 2 or 3 times. Once a company that was bought by Goldman Sachs, and they could not promise they would keep to the principle, so we took the B away, etc. For you to, an example of the standards, we started a journey on a really big company, 450,000 employees, and part of their business is to sell food to prisons, and that immediately created an investigation. So we are investigating what does it mean to actually serve food in prisons? Is that a good business or a bad business, etc. So I think we are as strict as we can be. But of course, the objective is to push as many companies as possible forward. It's not to kind of penalize companies. So obviously, we want companies to improve. And then if they improve, maybe it takes 5 years, 10 years, doesn't matter, but they have to get there. Thanks.
Thanks. We have a question on this side of the room.
Yes, I was wondering, what's the entry level in joining your group? For example, pre-revenue startup, can they join you?
Sure. So there is, one that we have in the Netherlands, I mean, some of you may know, it's called Farm Brothers. Farm Brothers, they make organic cookies. There's 2 guys who started the company, and it's now maybe 2 million, but when they started it was even less. So you can start, any company can start, and we have a pending B Corp status for companies that are really new. So if you want to set up a company tomorrow and you want to become a pending B Corp, as long as you can show that you're working for a positive impact, you get 1 year to fill in the data of what you will be in a year. So basically anyone can, and that's actually, the business model for us is we don't charge anything up until the company decides to become a B Corp. So anyone can use the tool, it's bcorporation.net. You can do the impact assessment for free. And then some companies say, yes, we want to go forward, and when you score, if you get the B, you pay, but you don't have to get the B. You can just have done the impact assessment and use the data for yourself.
Yeah, question on this side.
Hi.
Time for one more question if you think about the last one.
I'm just curious, could you expand a little bit more about concerning the link of your initiative with blockchain technology? For example, what are the biggest benefits that you preview? Do you already have some concrete initiatives in scope?
Thank you. Three weeks ago, we had a global meeting of the B Corps in Chile, and we talked about this. And we are going to start experimenting. The first experiment is supply chains. So we have companies like Danone, Unilever with very large supply chains. So the idea is to use blockchain to be able to do that. And I am kind of learning from you guys tonight. I think that basically we could go much further than the supply chain. We could create these digital identities, companies can trade with each other. So the first concrete thing is supply chain, and the next is, I hope we can do more.
Thanks. The last question is on this side, I believe.
I was missing one guy on the screen that said, if een hypothese, that if Donald Trump was in front of your nose and you said how to convince this guy to become a B Corp for his huge imperium.
So, first of all, there are 170 million companies in the world, and we got 3,000 become B Corp. So there's many more companies to go. Many companies like a Triodos Bank or Unilever, they already think they are a B Corp. In a way, they were created with that kind of values and that kind of, they want to be as ethical as possible as good businesses. So a lot of the B Corps are companies that actually were already with that kind of culture. But nobody went to them and said, hey, we're going to call you differently. And we can verify you, so there is an independent verification. So the two things are important. One is that we created a new language, and we verify them. So they cannot just say, we are a good company without someone to verify them. The third thing, which I want to, in response to your question, is, a lot of business people and companies, they care about their reputation, they care about who they are, they care about people who work for them, and therefore they want to try and have a positive impact. And for them, this is the path to become a positive impact company. It has not happened before. Because before B Corp was invented, we thought, wow, we create the policy, we change something in the macroeconomy, and suddenly everyone becomes different. But it doesn't work like that. It has to be internalized in the company. So basically, this is the value of B Corp, that any company can actually take this path.
Thanks, Marcello.
Thank
And getting the right resources for your organization, recruiting the right people is key for success factor, right? So how to attract millennials into your organization. So this aspect is really key for many people these days, right? Not only sustainability, but to be proud to work for a company who has sustainable goals in mind. So this is a very important concept. And I want to finish before I let you go. I'm now personally working in a cobalt provenance platform. So many mining companies are mining cobalt. Cobalt is not ethically mined sometimes. And the end clients of batteries, where cobalt is used for, the end clients of batteries are insisting that those mining companies are ethically mining their stuff. So a combination of ethical sourcing and provenance in the blockchain platform is an interesting combination where we're now building this platform for. So it's a good example of growing from a company to an ethical, sustainable company.
Yeah, I completely agree, so thank you. And maybe the final thing I kind of forgot is that one of our advisors is on the board of ABN Amro, so Annemieke Robeck. She's been a professor for many years. She's been pushing sustainable business. And we have already started the conversation with ABN Amro about either the whole bank or some parts of the bank to become B Corps.
Great.
So we are in the right place.
Great. Thank you very much, Marcello, for this great, interesting talk.